The crowded coffee shop buzzed with afternoon chatter, tables packed with customers seeking refuge from the autumn chill. Ethan sat in the corner, his worn jacket draped over the back of his chair, watching his daughter color with broken crayons. His face carried the weight of sleepless nights and double shifts. Then she walked in. Sophia, radiating success in her tailored coat, drew every eye in the room. But she ignored the VIP section, walking straight toward the corner table. Her voice, soft yet certain, cut through the noise. "Ethan, you remember me, don't you?" His face flushed crimson as recognition dawned. "Please don't joke with me." The entire cafe fell silent, tension crackling in the air. Ethan Harper had once been destined for greatness. In his early 30s now, he lived in a cramped rental apartment on the outskirts of the city, far from the gleaming financial district where he'd once dreamed of working. His days began at 4 in the morning, loading packages onto delivery trucks, and ended past midnight at the warehouse, stacking boxes until his back screamed in protest. The prestigious finance degree from an Ivy League university sat buried in a drawer somewhere, a relic of a life that felt like someone else's dream. Years ago, professors had called him the future of American finance. His analytical mind could dissect market trends with surgical precision, and his presentations left classrooms in awed silence. He'd graduated summa cum laude, with job offers from every major firm on Wall Street. But love had redirected his path. He'd married young, choosing a simple life with a woman he'd thought understood him. They'd had Emily, and for a brief moment, happiness had seemed enough. Then she left. No warning, no explanation beyond a note, saying she couldn't handle the ordinary life they'd built. The abandonment shattered more than just his heart. It demolished his confidence, his drive, his very sense of self. The promising career crumbled as he missed interviews to care for his infant daughter, as sleepless nights turned into foggy days, as grief transformed ambition into mere survival. Emily Harper, 6 years old with her mother's bright eyes and her father's stubborn chin, knew nothing of her father's former glory. To her, Daddy was a hero who worked hard, told the best bedtime stories, and always found money for new crayons, even when the electricity bill was overdue. She drew pictures of families with 3 figures, always adding a mother with yellow hair different each time, as if trying to imagine what piece was missing from their small world. Sophia Chen Williams stood at the opposite end of life's spectrum. At 29, she commanded boardrooms with the same ease most people ordered coffee. Her tech empire sprawled across 3 continents, her name graced Forbes covers, and her bank account held more zeros than most people could comprehend. But success had come at a price. While others had pursued love in their 20s, she'd pursued market dominance. While friends shared engagement photos, she'd shared quarterly reports. Her wealth wasn't inherited, though her family's fortune had certainly opened doors. She'd walked through those doors with fierce determination, transforming her father's modest investment firm into a technological powerhouse. Yet beneath the polished exterior, behind the designer suits and practiced smile, lived the ghost of a shy college girl who'd sat in the back of lecture halls, hanging on every word of a brilliant young man who never noticed her existence. The coffee shop encounter wasn't coincidence. Nothing in Sophia's life ever was. She'd seen Ethan's name on a delivery manifest for her company, had traced his fall from grace through old college networks, had spent sleepless nights wondering what might have been if she'd been brave enough to speak up years ago. Sophia's hands trembled slightly as she stood before their table, though her voice remained steady. The little girl looked up from her coloring book, studying the elegant woman with the curiosity only children possessed. Ethan's entire body had gone rigid, his knuckles white as he gripped his coffee cup. "You used to tutor me in advanced financial modeling," Sophia continued, her carefully rehearsed words tumbling out. "Senior year. You probably don't remember, but you saved my grade." The lie came easily. She'd never needed tutoring, but she had attended every study session he'd led, sitting close enough to memorize the way his eyes lit up when explaining complex theories, far enough to remain invisible. The memory burned fresh as yesterday. Ethan at the whiteboard, passionate about yield curves and risk assessments, while she pretended to take notes, but really wrote his name in the margins of her notebook like a lovesick teenager. Ethan's jaw clenched. His mind raced through possibilities, each more humiliating than the last. Why would Sophia Chen Williams, The Sophia Chen Williams. Remember a nobody like him? This had to be some cruel joke. Maybe someone had told her about his fall from grace, and she'd come to gawk at the wreckage. Rich people did that sometimes, didn't they? Poverty tourism dressed up as kindness. I think you're mistaken, he said quietly, his voice carrying a warning. We don't know each other. Emily's crayon stopped moving. She possessed that uncanny ability children had to sense adult tension, to know when something important was happening even if she couldn't understand what. Her eyes darted between her father's clenched jaw and the pretty lady's sad smile. Daddy, the lady knows you, Emily said simply, her voice cutting through their standoff. She looks at you like Mrs. Patterson, looks at Mr. Patterson when he brings her flowers. The innocent observation sent color flooding into both adult faces. Several nearby customers had given up pretending not to watch, their coffee growing cold as they witnessed what looked like a scene from a movie. Someone discreetly raised a phone, and Sophia's heart sank. By evening, this would be all over social media, twisted into whatever narrative sold the most clicks. We should go, Ethan announced abruptly, already reaching for Emily's crayons, shoving them haphazardly into her little backpack. His movements were sharp, desperate, like a cornered animal seeking escape. Get your coat. But Daddy, I'm not done with my picture. Now, Emily. The harshness in his tone made his daughter flinch. Immediately, guilt washed over his features, but the damage was done. Emily's lower lip trembled as she obediently stood, clutching her half-finished drawing of a happy family. Sophia wanted to reach out, to explain, to beg for just 5 minutes of his time, but the very public nature of their location paralyzed her. Every word would be dissected, every gesture analyzed. She'd miscalculated badly, approaching him here where pride mattered more than truth. Ethan, please, she said softly, but he was already shepherding Emily toward the door, his hand protective on his daughter's shoulder, his body positioned to block Sophia's view of the child. The bell above the door chimed their departure, leaving Sophia standing alone beside an empty table, watched by dozens of curious eyes. The walk home stretched endless through gray October streets. Emily clutched her father's hand, having to skip occasionally to match his angry stride. Ethan's mind churned with fury and humiliation. How dare she approach him like that, in public, making a spectacle of his circumstances? He could already imagine the whispers. Did you see that pathetic delivery driver? The CEO felt so sorry for him, she pretended to know him. But beneath the anger, something else stirred. The way she'd said his name, familiar and warm, as if she'd practiced it. The tremor in her hands she'd tried to hide. The look in her eyes that seemed less like pity and more like longing? No. He pushed the thought away violently. Women like Sophia Chen Williams didn't long for men like him. Not anymore. Maybe once, when he'd been somebody, when he'd had potential, but not now. Not when he could barely afford generic cereal for Emily's breakfast. Daddy? Emily's small voice broke through his spiral. Why were you mean to the pretty lady? I wasn't mean, sweetheart. I was just protecting us. From what? She seemed nice. She had kind eyes. Kind eyes. Trust his daughter to see what he refused to acknowledge. Yes. Sophia's eyes had been kind. Also nervous, hopeful, and strangely vulnerable for someone who commanded billion-dollar deals. That evening, after Emily was asleep, Ethan sat in their tiny living room staring at his laptop. He told himself he wouldn't look her up, wouldn't torture himself with evidence of everything he'd never have. But his fingers betrayed him, typing her name into the search bar. The images that loaded made his chest ache. Sophia at galas, at conferences, shaking hands with world leaders. But in every photo, something seemed missing. Her smile never quite reached her eyes. She stood alone even in crowds. An island of success surrounded by an ocean of acquaintances, but no one close enough to touch. Meanwhile, 3 miles away in a penthouse that cost more than Ethan would earn in several lifetimes, Sophia stood at floor-to-ceiling windows watching the city lights twinkle. She'd handled it all wrong. Of course, he'd been defensive. She'd ambushed him in public, offering no privacy for his pride. She should have found another way, a letter maybe, or through a mutual friend. But she'd been impatient, desperate to see if the spark she'd carried all these years might ignite, if given the chance. Her phone buzzed with messages from her PR team. The coffee shop encounter had already been posted online, complete with speculative headlines. Tech heiress slums it with single dad. CEO's bizarre coffee shop confrontation. From billions to blue collar. A love story? She turned off the phone without reading more. The next morning arrived too soon for Ethan. 4 o'clock alarm dragging him from dreams he couldn't quite remember, but which left him feeling hollow. He dropped Emily at school, kissing her forehead and promising to pick her up on time, despite knowing he'd probably be late again. The school understood. Many parents in their neighborhood struggled with similar juggling acts. He didn't expect to see the Bentley parked outside the school gate. He certainly didn't expect to see Sophia emerge from it, holding a small gift bag decorated with unicorns. His feet stopped moving before his brain could process the sight. She'd dressed down today, jeans and a simple sweater, though both probably cost more than his monthly rent. When she saw him, her face cycled through hope, fear, and determination in rapid succession. "Before you say anything," she started quickly, "I'm not here for you. I brought something for Emily. Every little girl deserves new art supplies. And I noticed yesterday her crayons were well-loved." The phrase well-loved instead of broken wasn't lost on him. Even now, she chose words to preserve his dignity. It made him angrier somehow. This careful kindness. "Stay away from my daughter." His voice came out harder than intended, making passing parents glance their way with concern. "She's not part of whatever game you're playing." "Game?" Sophia's composure cracked slightly. "You think this is a game to me? What else could it be? You're Sophia Chen Williams. I'm nobody. We live in different universes. So yes, this feels like a game, and I won't let you use Emily as a playing piece." The gift bag trembled in her hands. For a moment, he thought she might cry, and the possibility terrified him because he didn't know if he could maintain his anger against her tears. "You were never nobody," she whispered, but before he could respond, she was walking back to her car, leaving the gift bag on the hood of his beaten truck. Inside were not just crayons but professional-grade colored pencils, the kind he'd once bought Emily for Christmas before returning them for grocery money. The receipt was conspicuously absent, but a small note in elegant handwriting read, "For the artist. Every masterpiece deserves the right tools." The memory crashed over Ethan like a wave, unexpected and overwhelming. Senior year, a Thursday afternoon in March. The library mostly empty except for desperate procrastinators. He'd been leading a study group for the advanced finance seminar, the one everyone called the GPA killer. Most students had given up attending his sessions, finding his pace too intense, his expectations too high. But she'd been there, the quiet girl who always sat in the third row, taking meticulous notes in color-coded pens. He'd never known her name then, had barely noticed her except to acknowledge that at least someone appreciated his efforts. She'd asked intelligent questions occasionally, her voice soft but her insights sharp. Once, she'd caught an error in his calculation before he did, saving him the embarrassment of teaching the wrong formula. After graduation, he'd glimpsed her at the ceremony, her family's section overflowing with flowers and champagne. He'd been alone, his own family too poor to travel for the event. She'd looked radiant in her cap and gown, surrounded by luxury and love, while he'd stood apart, already knowing his life would take a different path than his classmates headed to Wall Street. But wait. If she'd been in his study group, if she'd sat in the third row, if she'd asked those careful questions, the realization hit him with stunning force. She hadn't needed tutoring. She'd graduated magna cum laude, for Christ's sake. She'd been there by choice, seeking not knowledge, but something else entirely. Back in the present, Sophia stood in her office, staring out at the city skyline without seeing it. Her assistant knocked, entering with the day's agenda. But Sophia waved her away. She couldn't focus on acquisitions and quarterly reports when her mind kept replaying the hurt in Ethan's eyes, the protective way he'd positioned himself between her and Emily. Her phone rang, her father calling from their estate in California. "Sophia, darling, There are some concerning photos circulating. You confronting some delivery driver? He's not just some delivery driver, Dad. A pause. Her father was calculating, analyzing, the way he'd taught her to approach every situation. This is about that boy from college, isn't it? The one whose thesis you kept? She'd forgotten about that, how she'd somehow acquired a copy of Ethan's senior thesis on emerging market volatility, how her father had found it in her apartment years ago, pages worn from rereading. It doesn't matter now, she said quietly. Sophia, you've built an empire. You can have anyone. But I don't want anyone, Dad. I never have. The admission hung between them, heavy with years of unspoken truth. After her father ended the call with worried promises to support whatever she decided, Sophia made a decision. If Ethan needed space, she'd give it to him. But she wouldn't disappear entirely. Not this time. The waves started small. First, local gossip blogs picked up the story. Mystery man rejects. Billionaire CEO. Then, mainstream media caught wind. The single dad who said no to billions. Within days, Ethan couldn't pick up Emily from school without facing a gauntlet of whispers and stares. His co-workers at the warehouse were less subtle. During lunch break, someone pulled up a photo on their phone, the one from the coffee shop that made him look bewildered and small, while Sophia glowed like something from another world. Yo, Harper, this really you, man? You turned down that? Must be nice. Having billionaires chase after you while the rest of us can't even get a text back. Bet he's playing hard to get. Smart move. Holding out for a better offer. Each comment carved away another piece of his dignity. They didn't understand that this wasn't some romantic comedy where the poor guy gets the rich girl and everyone lives happily ever after. This was real life, where men like him didn't get fairy tale endings, where single fathers worked themselves to death just to keep the lights on. Former classmates from his Ivy League days were even crueler, reaching out through dormant social media connections he'd forgotten existed. Ethan Harper? Man, we heard you were doing differently these days. Guess the CEO thing is a step up from delivery truck. Remember when you were going to be the next Warren Buffett? Wild how things turn out. She could have anyone. Why she's slumming with you? That last message came from Marcus Chen, who'd always resented Ethan's academic success. The word slumming burned like acid, confirming every fear Ethan harbored about how the world saw him now. Emily noticed the change in her father immediately. He came home later, left earlier, and the shadows under his eyes deepened into permanent bruises. When she asked about the pretty lady from the coffee shop, he changed the subject. When she used the new colored pencils Sophia had left, he watched with an expression she couldn't understand but which looked like pain. "Daddy, are you sad?" she asked one evening, climbing into his lap while he stared blankly at job listings he couldn't afford to pursue. "No, baby. Just tired. Maybe you need a friend." The pretty lady wanted to be your friend. It's complicated, Em. Grown-ups always say that when they mean no. The wisdom of 6-year-olds could be devastating in its simplicity. Sophia, meanwhile, faced her own storm. Her board of directors expressed concern about the reputational impact of her very public rejection. Her PR team worked overtime to spin the narrative, but she refused their suggested statement about it being a misunderstanding. "I want to make something clear," she announced at the next press conference, ostensibly about a new product launch. "Yes, I approached someone from my past. No, it wasn't a publicity stunt. And no, I won't apologize for it. Miss Chen Williams, sources say this man is a delivery driver with a child. Surely someone in your position, someone in my position what?" Her voice turned steel. "Should only associate with other CEOs? Should measure a person's worth by their bank account? I built this company on the principle of seeing value where others don't. Why should my personal life be different?" But even as she defended him publicly, privately she kept her distance, respecting the boundary he'd drawn. She threw herself into work, hoping exhaustion might dull the ache of rejection. It didn't. One evening, 3 weeks after the coffee shop incident, Ethan found himself parked outside the community center, where he'd seen advertised financial literacy workshops. He'd told himself he was just checking the schedule for potential evening work, but really he was torturing himself with memories of who he used to be, The instructor inside was fumbling through a explanation of compound interest, getting the formula wrong. Before he could stop himself, Ethan was inside, politely correcting the error, his hands moving across the whiteboard with forgotten confidence. The students, mostly immigrants and young parents like himself, listened with the same rapt attention his college study groups once had. He didn't notice Sophia slip in through the back door, didn't see her watch from the shadows as he transformed from exhausted delivery driver to passionate educator. She'd been funding this program anonymously for years, occasionally dropping by to check its progress. Finding Ethan there felt like destiny playing a cruel joke. When the session ended and students thanked him profusely, Ethan finally saw her. His animated expression shuddered immediately, the light leaving his eyes. "Are you following me now?" "No. I sponsor this program. Have for years. I had no idea you'd be here." The truth of it showed in her genuine surprise. But Ethan was beyond believing in coincidences. "Right. Just another accident. How many of those before? I believe you're orchestrating this whole thing." "Orchestrating what, Ethan? You think I'm pulling strings to make you miserable? You think I want to see you like this? Like what?" His voice turned dangerous. "Go ahead. Say it. Pathetic? Broken? A failure? In pain," she said simply. "I think you're in pain. And you've been in pain for so long you've forgotten what it feels like not to hurt." The accuracy of it stole his breath. Before he could respond, she was already walking away, but not before he heard her whisper, "So am I." The truth arrived on a rainy Tuesday, delivered by Jake Morrison, Ethan's former roommate who now worked at a hedge fund. They met at a diner Ethan could barely afford, Jake insisting on paying before the awkwardness of Ethan's financial situation could poison the conversation. "I heard about the whole Sophia thing," Jake said, stirring sugar into his coffee. "Small world, right? Who knew she had a thing for you back then? She didn't. Bro, come on." "Everyone knew." "Well, everyone except you. Girl attended every single one of your study sessions, even for classes she wasn't taking. She'd sit there staring at you like you hung the moon." Ethan's coffee turned bitter in his mouth. "That's not possible. You were obsessed with Ashley then, remember? Couldn't see anyone else. But Sophia? Man, she had it bad. There was this rumor that she even..." Jake stopped abruptly, his face flushing. "She even what?" "Nothing. Forget it." "Jake," his friend sighed. "There was talk that the emergency scholarship you got senior year, the one that let you finish after your dad lost his job. Some people said it came from the Chen Williams Family Foundation, that Sophia specifically requested it." The diner walls seemed to close in. Ethan's hands started shaking, coffee sloshing dangerously close to the rim. "You're telling me my entire education, my degree, everything I achieved was because of her charity? No man, that's not..." But Ethan was already standing, throwing down what little cash he had, stumbling out into the rain. He drove straight to Sophia's building, past the security, who recognized him from the news. Up the private elevator to her penthouse. She answered the door in pajamas, looking smaller and younger than the titan of industry she portrayed to the world. "You bought me," he said without preamble, rain dripping from his clothes onto her marble floor, like a pet project. A charity case. Understanding dawned in her eyes, followed quickly by horror. "Ethan, no. That's not. The scholarship, Sophia, the one that saved my life senior year. That was you." She opened her mouth to deny it, then closed it, her shoulders sagging. Yes. The single word hit him like a physical blow. He actually staggered back, his hand finding the doorframe for support. "So even my greatest achievement, graduating from that place, was a lie. I didn't earn it. You handed it to me. You earned every grade, every award, with money you provided. Do you understand what you've done? You've made my entire life a fiction." Every time I looked at that diploma with pride, thinking I'd overcome the odds, it was actually just rich girl plays with poor boy's life. Tears streamed down Sophia's face, but her voice remained steady. "You want to know the truth? Fine. Yes, I made sure you got that scholarship, not because you were a charity case, but because you deserved to finish what you started. You were brilliant, Ethan. You are brilliant. Your family's financial crisis shouldn't have derailed your future. That wasn't your choice to make. You're right. She wrapped her arms around herself, looking suddenly fragile. But I was 21, and in love with someone who didn't know I existed. I watched you spiral when your dad lost everything, saw you considering dropping out, and I couldn't bear it. So yes, I pulled strings. Yes, I used my family's money. And yes, I've regretted not telling you every day since. You've been lying to me for over a decade. I never lied. We never even had a real conversation until 3 weeks ago. How could I tell you? Hi, I'm the girl who silently loved you through college and, oh, by the way, I paid for your last year. You would have hated me then too. I don't hate you, Ethan said quietly, the fight draining out of him. I hate that everything I thought I accomplished was actually your gift. I hate that even at my best, I was still a charity case. You were never. Please, he interrupted, his voice breaking. Just, please, let me have what little dignity I have left. He left her standing in her doorway, tears mixing with rainwater on both their faces. As the elevator descended, he heard her sob, the sound following him down 50 floors and into the street, where the rain couldn't wash away the feeling that he'd just broken something irreparable. The days that followed blurred together in a haze of mechanical routine. Ethan went through the motions of living, working his shifts, caring for Emily. But inside he felt hollowed out. The revelation about the scholarship had shattered his last source of pride. The one achievement he'd thought remained untainted by his failures. Emily noticed immediately. Children always did. She watched her father move through their apartment like a ghost, present but not really there. Daddy, why don't you smile anymore? I smile, baby. Not real smiles. Not the ones that make your eyes crinkly. She drew pictures with her new colored pencils, always including 3 figures now, the third with long dark hair like Sophia's. When Ethan saw them, his chest would tighten with something between grief and longing. Sophia threw herself into work with desperate intensity. She negotiated acquisitions she didn't care about, attended galas that felt like torture, smiled for cameras while feeling like she was dying inside. Her assistant, Margaret, who'd worked for her for 5 years, finally confronted her. You're destroying yourself over him. I'm fine. You've lost 8 pounds in 2 weeks. You've been sleeping in your office. You cried during a board meeting yesterday. The quarterly projections were very moving. Margaret placed a letter on Sophia's desk. This came for you. Hand-delivered. No return address. Sophia recognized Emily's careful child's handwriting immediately. Inside, in crayon and colored pencil, was a drawing of 3 people holding hands under a rainbow. Below it, in painstaking letters, Dear Miss Sophia, Daddy is sad. Are you sad too? When I'm sad, hugs help. Maybe you both need hugs. Love, Emily. P.S. Thank you for the pencils. I draw better families now. Sophia broke down completely, sobbing over the innocent drawing while Margaret held her shoulders. I ruined everything. Sophia gasped between tears. I thought I was helping him all those years ago, but I took away his agency, his pride, and now he can't even look at me without seeing pity instead of love. Then show him it was never pity, Margaret said firmly. Stop hiding behind your money and position. Show him who you really are. Meanwhile, Ethan sat in his truck during lunch break, staring at his phone. He'd pulled up Sophia's contact information a dozen times, started messages he couldn't finish. What would he even say? That despite everything, he missed her? That the coffee shop encounter replayed in his dreams, except in the dreams he said yes? That Emily asked about her every day, and he had no good answers? His coworker knocked on the window. Harper, you gonna eat, or just stare at your phone all break? Not hungry. It's about that rich lady, isn't it? Man, you're an idiot. You know how many guys would kill to have someone like that interested in them? It's complicated. No, it's not. You're just scared. Scared she'll see you're not good enough, so you're rejecting her first. Classic self-sabotage, my man. The simplicity of the assessment stung because it held truth. Was that what he was doing? Pushing her away before she could realize he wasn't worth the effort. That evening, fate intervened in the form of Emily's school play. She was playing a flower in the spring pageant, and Ethan had promised to attend, despite having to miss a shift to do so. He arrived late, slipping into the back of the auditorium, only to freeze when he saw who sat 3 rows ahead. Sophia, dressed simply, holding a bouquet of daisies. She was alone, surrounded by chattering parents, but part of none of their groups. When Emily appeared on stage, Sophia leaned forward, her face lighting up with genuine delight. How had she even known about the play? As if sensing his presence, Sophia turned. Their eyes met across the darkened auditorium. She didn't smile, didn't wave, just held his gaze for a moment before turning back to watch Emily. After the performance, Emily bounded off stage, searching the crowd. She saw Ethan first, running into his arms with excited chatter about forgotten lines and costume malfunctions. Then she spotted Sophia. "Miss Sophia, you came. You invited me, remember?" Sophia held out the daisies. "You said daisies were happy flowers." Ethan's confusion must have shown because Emily piped up. "I gave her an invitation at the grocery store last week. Mrs. Patterson helped me write it." The image of his 6-year-old secretly inviting Sophia to her play, probably cornering her in the cereal aisle with determination inherited from him, made something crack in Ethan's chest. "Thank you for coming," he managed, his voice rough. "Thank you for not asking me to leave," Sophia replied softly. They stood awkwardly, 2 adults paralyzed by their own hearts, while a 6-year-old rolled her eyes at their complexity. "Are you guys going to be weird forever?" "Because I want ice cream, and you're being boring." The unexpected humor broke the tension. Both adults laughed, surprising themselves. "Ice cream sounds good," Sophia said hesitantly. If that's okay?" Ethan looked at Emily's hopeful face, then at Sophia's carefully controlled expression. For once, he chose courage over pride. "Yeah, it's okay." They went to a small parlor near the school. Nothing fancy, the kind of place where the floor was sticky and the neon sign flickered. Sophia didn't seem to care, diving into a chocolate sundae with enthusiasm, while Emily regaled her with school stories. Watching them together, Ethan saw what he'd been denying. Sophia looked at Emily, not with the calculating gaze of someone playing a role, but with genuine affection. And Emily bloomed under the attention, chattering away about art projects and playground politics with the ease of a child who'd found a kindred spirit. "Miss Sophia, do you have a boyfriend?" Emily asked suddenly, ice cream decorating her chin. "Emily," Ethan's face burned. "What?" "It's important information," Emily said with 6-year-old certainty. Sophia smiled softly. "No, I don't have a boyfriend." "Good. Daddy doesn't have a girlfriend either. Maybe you could date each other, and then I'd have a mommy who brings me daisies." The silence that followed could have been awkward, but somehow it wasn't. It felt like standing on the edge of something, waiting to see who would jump first. "Emily, relationships are more complicated than that," Ethan said gently. "No, they're not," Emily countered. "You like someone, they like you be together. Only grown-ups make it complicated with all the thinking and worrying and being scared." Out of the mouths of babes, Ethan thought, meeting Sophia's eyes over his daughter's head. The following Thursday, another press conference, this one for Sophia's company's latest product launch. She stood at the podium, polished and professional, until the inevitable personal questions arose. "Miss Chen Williams, any update on your pursuit of the single father?" The room tensed, waiting for her to deflect or deny. Instead, Sophia lifted her chin, looked directly into the cameras. "Yes, actually. I want to say something." She gripped the podium edges. "I'm in love with someone. Have been for years. He's brilliant, kind, devoted to his daughter, and works harder than anyone I know. He also thinks he's not worthy of love because life knocked him down, and society measures worth by the wrong metrics." The room erupted in whispers, cameras flashing like lightning. I don't care that he drives a delivery truck. I don't care that he lives in a small apartment. I don't care what anyone thinks about the difference in our tax brackets. I care that he reads his daughter 3 stories every night, even when exhausted. I care that he once spent 4 hours teaching a struggling student for free just because it was right. I care that his smile, when real, could power the entire city. She paused, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper, though the microphones caught every word. And if he's listening, I want him to know. I never pitied him. I never saw him as a project. I saw him as the man I couldn't forget, couldn't stop loving, couldn't give up on, even if he never feels the same. That won't change. She walked off stage before anyone could ask follow-up questions, leaving chaos in her wake. Ethan watched from his phone during his afternoon break, standing in the warehouse parking lot with tears streaming down his face. His coworkers found him like that. Phone clutched in his hand, shoulders shaking. Harper? Man, you okay? He wasn't okay. He was breaking apart and reforming into something new. All his defenses, all his pride, all his fear, suddenly seemed so small compared to what Sophia had just done. She'd stood before the world and declared her love for him. Not despite his circumstances, but including them, making them part of a whole person she valued. That evening, he stood in Emily's doorway watching her sleep, her new drawing on the nightstand. 3 figures under a rainbow, holding hands. The word family written in purple crayon above them. He pulled out his phone, found Sophia's number, typed and deleted a dozen messages before settling on simple truth. I saw the press conference. Her response came immediately. I meant every word. I know. I'm not asking for anything, Ethan. I just needed you to know. He stared at the screen, years of hurt and fear warring with something new and fragile and hopeful. Emily has a soccer game Saturday. 9 a.m., Roosevelt Park. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I'll bring orange slices. It wasn't a declaration of love. It wasn't a grand gesture. It was something better. A beginning. Saturday arrived gray and drizzling, but Emily didn't care. She ran across the muddy field with joy, even though her team was losing badly. Ethan stood on the sideline, hands shoved in his pockets, hyper-aware of Sophia beside him. She dressed down again, jeans and a rain jacket, looking like any other soccer mom except for the way other parents kept stealing glances and whispering. By now, everyone knew who she was, what she'd said at the press conference. You didn't have to come, Ethan said quietly. You invited me. I mean, after everything I said, the way I reacted. Ethan. She turned to face him fully. I understand why you were angry. The scholarship, not telling you, it was wrong. I made a choice for you without your consent, but I need you to understand something too. She took a breath, choosing her words carefully. I didn't give you that scholarship because I pitied you. I gave it because the thought of the world losing your mind, your potential, your future contributions, it was unbearable. Not just for me personally, but objectively wrong. You earned every grade, every achievement. The scholarship just made sure you could finish earning them. But if roles were reversed, if you'd had money and saw someone brilliant about to lose everything due to circumstances beyond their control, wouldn't you help? The question hung between them as Emily scored her first goal, shrieking with delight. Both adults cheered, the conversation pausing for celebration. When they settled back, Ethan found his voice. I would help, but I'd want them to know. To have the choice to accept or refuse. You're right. I was a coward. I was so afraid of you rejecting me that I made choices that ensured you'd reject me later instead. She smiled sadly. Pretty stupid for someone supposedly smart, huh? Despite everything, Ethan found himself smiling back. Yeah, well, I haven't exactly been brilliant either. I've been so wrapped up in pride and fear that I almost missed. Missed what? He watched Emily race across the field, ponytail flying, and thought about the drawings she made, always adding that third figure. Thought about Sophia at the press conference, laying her heart bare for the world. Thought about the way she looked at Emily like she was precious, and at him like he was worth something despite everything. I almost missed a chance at something real. Sophia's breath caught. "Ethan, I'm scared," he admitted, the words rough. "I'm scared you'll realize I'm just a broken-down former prodigy who can't even afford decent shoes for his kid. I'm scared Emily will get attached, and you'll leave. I'm scared of hoping again." "I'm scared too," Sophia whispered back. "Scared I'll say the wrong thing, and you'll push me away. Scared I can't be the mother Emily deserves. Scared that love isn't enough to bridge the gap between our worlds." They stood there, two frightened adults on a muddy sideline, watching a little girl play with abandon. "Maybe," Ethan said slowly, "being scared together is better than being scared alone." Sophia's hand found his, tentative and questioning. He squeezed gently. An answer. And a promise. Emily's team lost 7-1, but she ran to them glowing with pride about her single goal. She saw their joined hands, and her smile could have powered the entire city, just like her father's. "Does this mean you're boyfriend and girlfriend now?" The adults exchanged glances. A whole conversation in a look. "It means we're going to try," Ethan said carefully. "But slowly. Okay? We need to know each other better." "I already know everything important," Emily announced. "Daddy needs someone who makes him smile real smiles. Miss Sophia needs someone who sees her, not her money. And I need parents who hold hands and come to my games." The profound simplicity of children struck again, leaving both adults misty-eyed. "From the mouths of babes," Sophia murmured, echoing Ethan's earlier thought. 3 weeks passed, Ethan and Sophia learning each other slowly. Coffee dates when Emily was at school. Dinners at the small apartment, where Sophia learned to love mac and cheese from a box. Walks in the park where they talked about everything and nothing. He learned she couldn't sleep without reading first. That she hated cilantro. That she'd kept his old study guides all these years. She learned he sang in the shower. That he still did complex calculations for fun. That he'd turned down 3 better-paying jobs because they'd mean less time with Emily. The world watched, fascinated. Photographers caught them at the grocery store, Sophia laughing as Ethan juggled coupons. Social media dissected every appearance, every gesture, every smile. But the real test came at Sophia's company gala. "I don't belong there," Ethan protested when she invited him. "Those people, they'll know I'm just playing dress-up." "You belong wherever you choose to be," Sophia countered. "But if you're not ready..." "I understand." He wasn't ready, but he went anyway, renting a tux that almost fit, practicing small talk in the mirror while Emily giggled at his nervousness. The ballroom glittered with wealth and power, every surface reflecting light and privilege. Ethan stood at Sophia's side feeling like a fraud, until she whispered, "You're the smartest person in this room, you know." Doubtful. "I'm serious." Half these people inherited their positions. The other half got lucky with one good idea. You? You earned everything through pure brilliance and determination. Even when life knocked you down, you got up every day for Emily. That's real strength. Before he could respond, Marcus Chen approached, the same man who'd messaged about Sophia slumming. "Ethan Harper. Quite the Cinderella story you've got going." "Marcus." Ethan's voice stayed steady, despite his clenched jaw. Though I suppose in this version, Cinderella already had the prince's attention back in school. Must be nice, having that ace up your sleeve all these years. The implication that Ethan had somehow planned this, had manipulated Sophia's old feelings, made his vision go red. But before he could respond, Sophia stepped forward. "Marcus, so lovely you could make it. How's the SEC investigation going? I heard they're very interested in your trading patterns from last quarter." Marcus paled, excusing himself quickly. "You didn't have to defend me," Ethan said quietly. "Partners defend each other," Sophia replied simply, and the word partners warmed him more than the champagne. Later that evening, they stood on the balcony overlooking the city. Inside, the party continued, but out here, they were alone. "I love you," Ethan said suddenly, the words escaping before he could overthink them. "I fought it, denied it, was terrified of it, but I love you. Not your money or position, or what you can do for Emily and me. Just you. The girl who color-coded her notes and sat in the 3rd row and saved my degree because she couldn't bear to see potential wasted." Sophia turned to him with tears streaming down her face. "Say it again." I love you, Sophia Chen Williams. All of you. Even the parts that scare me. Especially the parts that scare me. She kissed him then, there on the balcony where photographers could see, where the world could witness, where there was no taking it back. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, she whispered, I love you too. Have since you explained derivatives, using pizza slices, as an example. He laughed, remembering that study session, how passionate he'd been about making concepts accessible. We're really doing this? He asked. Despite everything? Despite the difference in our worlds? We're making our own world, she said firmly. One where love matters more than bank accounts, where little girls get the families they draw, where second chances exist for those brave enough to take them. Inside, someone started tapping a glass, calling for speeches. Sophia looked at him questioningly. Together? She asked. Together, he confirmed. They walked back into the ballroom hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next. The crowd parted, whispers following their path to the microphone. Sophia spoke first, poised and confident. Many of you have wondered about my recent personal choices. Let me be clear. Choosing love over conventionality isn't a choice at all. It's a necessity. Then Ethan. His voice, growing stronger with each word. I spent years believing my worth was tied to my failures. But someone recently taught me that worth comes from how we rise, how we love, how we persist despite the odds. He found Emily in the crowd, brought there by Margaret to surprise them. His daughter waved enthusiastically, her party dress already wrinkled. My daughter asked me once why adults make everything complicated. The answer is fear. But I'm done being afraid. The room held its breath. Sophia, you said at your press conference that you didn't need anything from me. But I need something from you. He turned to face her fully. I need you to be Emily's mother. I need you to be my partner. I need you to help me remember who I was and become who I meant to be. He dropped to one knee, pulling out a simple ring he'd bought with 3 months of savings. Nothing compared to what she could afford, but everything he had to give. Marry me. Not because you loved who I was in college, but because of who we are together now. Because Emily needs parents who choose love over fear. Because I can't imagine a future without you in it. The room exploded. Cameras flashed like fireworks. Someone was crying. Multiple people were crying. But all Ethan could see was Sophia's face, joy, and shock. And love painted across her features. Yes, she breathed. Then louder. Yes. 1,000 times yes. Emily broke from Margaret's hold, racing across the ballroom to crash into them both, creating a 3-person hug that would make front pages nationwide. Does this mean I get to be a flower girl? Emily asked, prompting laughter from the crowd. You get to be whatever you want, baby, Ethan told her, lifting her up so all 3 of them were at eye level. I want to be a family, Emily said simply. Then that's what we'll be, Sophia promised, slipping the modest ring onto her finger like it was worth millions. A family. The crowd erupted in applause. Champagne flowed. The story would dominate headlines for weeks. From rejection to ring, a modern fairy tale, and love wins. CEO and single dad prove opposites, attract, and the little girl, who drew her family, into existence. But there in that moment, in the center of the swirling chaos, 3 people held each other and knew they were already home. The millionaire CEO, who'd waited years for love. The single dad who'd learned to hope again. The little girl who'd known all along what adults took forever to figure out. Love wasn't complicated at all. It was simply choosing each other, again and again, despite the odds, because of the joy, through the fear, into something beautiful and real, and theirs. 6 months later, a simple wedding in Roosevelt Park. Emily threw flower petals with enthusiasm, while Ethan and Sophia promised to love each other through deliveries and board meetings, through mac and cheese and caviar, through everything life could throw at them. When they kissed, Emily cheered loudest of all, holding up her latest drawing. 3 figures under a rainbow. But now with a house around them, a heart on the door, and in her careful handwriting, the word that mattered most, forever. And in that moment, with spring sunshine and scattered petals and the sound of their daughter's laughter, forever seemed like exactly the right amount of time.